Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed that the field bringeth forth year by year. Okay? You got to do it. And thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose to place his name there. And we know later on that place was in Jerusalem where the temple was. Okay? The tithe of thy corn, of thy wine, and of thine oil, and the firstlings of thy herds, and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God always. And if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far from thee, which the Lord thy God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, then thou shalt turn it into money. Okay, so if it's too long for you to go all the way down to Jerusalem, then you turn that agriculture, because basically they were agricultural society. Okay, so now, but if you get to, rather than taking all that stuff down to Jerusalem, you change it for money, and then you take that money down there to Jerusalem, to the temple. Okay, and he says, then shalt thou turn into the money, and bind up the money in thy hand, and shalt go into the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. And thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink. You see? Now, a lot of people to tell you that you need to tithe don't tell you that you were supposed to be able to take that tithe money and you could buy you strong drink. Now, can you imagine taking your tithe money into a church now and then asking for strong drink? Then people will look at you and they'll stone you for saying something like that. But that's what you were supposed to do. You see what I mean? And it says, for strong drink, whatever thy soul desireth. And thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God, and thou shalt rejoice thou in thy household. Well, of course, people don't never read this verse. They don't want to tell you that. Okay? But it says, and the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he hath no part nor inheritance with thee. Now remember, the Levites didn't get any inheritance. They didn't get no land. They had to wait. They had to minister unto the Lord. And that's why all the people's tenth that they brought, you know what I mean, the Levites were to get, you know, those people's tenth. And basically, that's the way the Levites were to have stuff. Okay? All right, so when it says, at the end of 3 years thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. And the Levite, because he hath no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, and that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand which thou doest. Okay, so he said the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. See, the money didn't just go to the high priest or just to go to the preacher and his wife. You see what I'm saying? It was for the people who didn't have any inheritance, for the strangers, for the widows, and all of that stuff. And you bring that in so that God could take care of the poor of the land. You see what I'm saying? All right. So now, with that being said, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 26, because, see, there's ways that you were supposed to tithe when God commanded you to do it. All right. So go with me to Deuteronomy chapter 26. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 26, and we're going to read verses 12 through 19. When thou hast made an end of tithing all the tithes of thine increase the 3rd year, which is the year of tithing, and hast given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within thy gates and be filled. So you see, you didn't have to just give that tithe to the high priest. You could give it to the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. All right? Then thou shalt say before the Lord thy God, I have brought away the hallowed things out of mine house, and also have given them unto the Levite, and unto the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow, according to all thy commandments which thou hast commanded me. I have not transgressed thy commandments, neither have I forgotten them. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away aught thereof for any unclean use, nor given aught therefore for the dead, but I have hearkened to the voice of the Lord my God, and have done according to all that thou hast commanded me. You see what I'm saying? So when you gave your tithe, you were supposed to say over this that I have done all that you have commanded me. You see what I'm saying? That's part of the agreement here. You got to say that. All right? Then it says, look down from thy holy habitation from heaven, and bless thy people Israel, and the land which thou hast given us, as thou swearest unto our fathers, a land that floweth with milk and honey. This day the Lord thy God hath commanded thee to do these statutes and judgments. Thou shalt therefore keep and do them with all thine heart and with all thy soul. Thou hast avouched the Lord this day to be thy God, and to walk in his ways, and to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments, and to hearken unto his voice. And the Lord hath avouched thee this day to be his peculiar people, as he has promised thee, and that thou shouldest keep all his commandments. So under the law, the way you were to tithe, it was to take this, bring it in there, and then you had to speak and say, I've done all that you've commanded me to do. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you ain't done all that you commanded him to, that he's commanded you to do, you already know you can't just bringing that in there ain't good enough. You see what I'm saying? All right. So, but you see, under the law, there was a bunch of laws. And again, it was always about you keeping all of the commandments. All right. Now, I'm going to show you how sometimes the children of Israel were obedient. So go with me to 2 Chronicles chapter 31. All right. 2 Chronicles chapter 31. We're going to read verses 11 and 12. And it says, all right. Then Hezekiah, and Hezekiah was a righteous, was a good king, you know what I mean? It said he done that which was right in the eyes of the Lord, okay? So you see, and he set a lot of things back in order like it was supposed to be. Then Hezekiah commanded to prepare chambers in the house of the Lord, and they prepared them, and brought in the offerings and the tithes and the dedicated things faithfully. You see what I'm saying? All right? Over the which Conaniah the Levite was ruler, and Shemaiah, his brother, was the next. Okay, so you see how Hezekiah and them, they were obedient. They done what they were commanded to do. You see what I'm saying? All right, and let's go to Nehemiah chapter 12, and we'll read verse 44. All right, Nehemiah chapter 12, verse 44, and it says, "In that time were some appointed over the chamber for the treasures, for the offerings, for the first fruits, and for the tithes." Now remember, offerings ain't just you coming in and saying, okay, well, I'm going to give an extra here and there. No, the offerings that they were talking about were animal sacrifices. Okay? See, so, you know, that when people talk about you robbing God and tithes and offerings, no, that was animal sacrifices, what Malachi was talking about. You see what I'm saying? But see, they don't teach people that because they just try to get more money out of people. All right. But anyway, it says, you know, but this is what Nehemiah and them done. Now, remember, this is back in the Old Testament under the Old Covenant. All right. He says, you know, and at that time were some appointed over the chamber for the treasures, for the offerings, for the first fruits, and for the tithes, to gather into them out of the fields of the cities the portions of the law for the priests and Levites. For Judah rejoiced for the priests and for the Levites that waited. So you see, these people were being obedient. You see what I'm saying? They were doing what was commanded for them to do. All right. Now, when anytime they got in disobedience, of course, the Lord would send a prophet to them to tell them, y'all are not keeping my commandments. Okay? So that's where we pick up Malachi. But before we go there, we're going to go into Amos. Okay? So let's go to Amos chapter 4, verses 1 through 8. Amos chapter 4, verses 1 through 8. And it reads, "Hear this word, you kind of Bashan that are in the mountains of Samaria, which oppress the poor, which crush the needy, which say to their masters, bring and let us drink. The Lord God has sworn by his holiness that, lo, the day shall come upon you that he will take you away with hooks and your posterity with fish hooks." So God has got a problem with them because of the way they're treating people. You see what I'm saying? All right. And he says, "And you shall go out at the breaches, every cow at that which is before her, and you shall cast them into the palace, saith the Lord. Come to Bethel and transgress. At Gilgal multiply transgression, and bring your sacrifices every morning and your tithes after 3 years." Okay? So basically, they would try to bring their tithes and bring everything there. However, they wasn't treating each other right. They was oppressing the neighbors and oppressing the poor. So God, no, I don't care about you bringing your tithes in here and you treating people like dirt. You see what I'm saying? Verse 5, and it says, "And offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving with leaven, and proclaim and publish the free offerings. For this liketh you, O you children of Israel, saith the Lord God. And I also have given you cleanness of teeth in your cities, and want of bread in all your places, yet have you not returned unto me, saith the Lord. And also I have withholden the rain from you, and there were yet 3 months to the harvest, and I caused it to rain upon one city, and caused it not to rain upon another city. One piece was rained upon, and the piece whereupon it rained not withered. So 2 or 3 cities wandered into one city to drink water, but they were not satisfied, yet have you not returned unto me, saith the Lord. I have smitten you with blasting and mildew, when your gardens and your vineyards and your fig trees and your olive trees increase, the palmerworm devoured them, yet have you not returned unto me, saith the Lord." So you see, God's problem with them is this. I don't care that you sacrificing, bringing the sacrifice. I don't care that you're bringing the tithes in here. The bottom line is you're not doing all that I told you to do. And in that, I am now sending a curse on you. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You thinking you're going to have a great harvest. No, it's going to be a drought, and you're going to have famine in here. You see what I'm saying? And I'm going to rain down, you know what I mean, and blast you with mildew and all this stuff to the point your gardens and all your fruits ain't going to come up. Why? Because you ain't turning to me doing what I told you to do. Okay? So that's what Amos comes and tells them that. So though they're tithing, though they're giving, yet they're still under a curse. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because they are not keeping all of God's law. All right. So now we go to Malachi. All right.